Hello viewers, welcome to Top Notch Online TV. With you today is none other than Teacher Fidelis of Alliance High School. I'm a teacher of English and an author. Today we shall be looking at something different. As you prepare for your KCSE, we want to look at English Paper 1. What is expected in English Paper 1? As a student, what do you need to know? What are the expectations? So I'll just start by taking you through the questions that we have in English Paper 1. And we have number 1, we have functional rating. This is out of 20. And then we have a closed test followed by oral skills. So the total number of marks in this paper is 60. So you have 20 marks in functional rating, you have 10 marks in the closed test, and you have 30 marks in oral skills. So for you to score an A in English, then this is a paper that you need to work on. And everything that you have here is very simple. So it's something that you can actually work on without any difficulties. So I'll take you through each section, and we get to see what is expected by the examiner. And as a student, you get to learn or maybe get a few ideas on how to prepare for these. So I'll start by discussing functional rating. As indicated earlier, this is a section that is out of 20. So you have 20 marks for this section. And you can be tested on a variety of issues, maybe, starting with Form 1 work all the way to Form 4. So I will mention some of the functional rating items that we have, and maybe what you can expect or what you need to look into in the areas that we shall discuss today. So I'll start with something very simple, and these are letters. When you look at letters, what is expected as you write a letter? We have two types of letters, that is the informal and the official or the formal letter. So I'll start by maybe looking at the informal letter because this is simple. And when you write an informal letter, we only have one address. So you have one address, you have the date, and you have salutation, and then you go direct to the body and discuss whatever it is that you have been asked to by the examiner. In this case, in the body of this letter, ensure that you're having 3 paragraphs. In the first paragraph, you're having an introduction. In the body, you give the details. And then in the third paragraph, maybe you wind up, thank the person you're writing to. If, for instance, you're writing to your best friend, inviting them for a birthday party, so you say, "Dear Sam," have a comma. Then in the first paragraph, talk about asking him how he has been, tell him that you're okay, your family is well. And then in the second paragraph, then you give information pertaining the birthday party. Where is the birthday party? Where is it taking place? This is the venue. What is the time? At what time should he come? Do you have a certain outfit? Is it a themed party? Expectations? Should people bring gifts, and so on and so forth? So as you write an informal letter, then you don't have to give a lot of details because it's just a friendly letter. As you sign off, you can say, "Yours truly, your best friend," then give your name. In this letter, you don't sign. The next letter that we have, the other type of letter that we have, is the official letter. As you read the official letter, you have easier for students to use block format, and especially when you're looking at something official or something formal, because you don't keep wondering if I'm using the indented format whereby you're starting or you're giving one address at one corner, or say in this case the right hand side. How do you sign off? Instead of having all this confusion, how about using the block format? So in the block format, as long as you're having your paper with you, then you just start at the margin. You start by giving the sender's address. The name should not appear. Your name should not appear in the address. This is what you should note, that your name should not appear in the address. So say PO Box 2233 Kikuyu, or say whatever institution that you're talking about. So say highway mall, PO Box 2233 Nairobi. Once you're done with that, skip a line, go to the date. As discussed earlier, we said that the date should be presented in full. So if you're using today's date, you can say 7th or maybe 8th or whatever date that you have there when you're writing that letter. So you say 7th September 2023, written in full. Once that is done, you skip a line, you go to the recipients, the person receiving the letter. Write it. PO Box. Now, in the question, if you have been asked to write, say, to the managing director, then you say to the managing director, KCB Bank or Equity Bank or Britam or whatever institution that you're having there, then indicate PO Box, give the number, the town. Now, you have indicated, number 1, the sender's address, the date, the recipient's address. You go to the salutation. If you're writing to someone that you know, then you say, Dear Jane, Dear Dennis, Dear Brie, something. Then once you indicate that, have a comma. If you're writing to someone that you don't know, then you can just say, Dear Sir or Madam, then have a comma. Skip another line, go to the reference. How do you denote the reference? It should be RE. RE, colon, then indicate. You could be writing a letter of application, and in this case, then you have to indicate that have the colon, and then indicate applying or application for maybe a sports something. Consider what you have been given in the question. So once you're done with that, go to the letter. In the letter, you should have 3 paragraphs. Paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3. In this case, let us look at maybe an example of a letter. You got these advertisements, maybe in the Daily Nation, and then you decided to apply for the job. Or maybe you got this information from the social media pages, maybe on Instagram or on Twitter, and then you decided to apply for the job. In strength, what makes you a better candidate than the other people applying for the same job. So talk about that will ensure that this person gives you a job. Then paragraph number 3, you need more information in case there's a question, you can reach me through maybe an email address. Sign off, consider the what you wrote in the salutation. So if you wrote to someone that you know, Dear Sam, then you sign off your signature and your name. If you said Dear Sir or Madam, Y, you capitalize Y only. So once you've done that, you're good to go. You have your official letter. Writing a letter of apology, the only thing that will change is the re. If you're writing letter, the only thing that will change is the re. Everything else follows the same format. So once you have the format when writing an official letter, then you're good to go. So depending on the question that you get from the examiner, then you apply the format that we have discussed and you'll be good to go. So away from letters, we earlier. So you can get minutes, you can get a CV, you can get reports, you can get You can get maybe recipes, emails. We have so many items in the functional writing area, but the key point is for you to know the format that you're using, and the content. What are the expectations of the examiner? Go back to the question, read it carefully. If it's a recipe, what have you been asked to write about? Are you inviting someone for maybe a birthday party, and you need to cook something? So look at the question, and you will know what the examiner needs. Personal journal. You can be asked to write a condolence note. It should be enclosed, so that once you say this is a personal journal, it is enclosed. So again, for you, maybe the work that your teacher has given, ensure that you revise. Get to know what is the difference between, say, a diary and that will happen in the future. On the other hand, if you look at, say, a personal journal, you're looking at things. What happened in day 1, day 2, day 3. So you give these in a reported form. So now, example, in a letter writing. If you're writing a letter of apology, if you say, I'm sorry that I'm late, do you mean that? How do you present that in writing? So number 1, use polite language. Use words that showcase remorse. You can give an example of a student, maybe a Form 4 student decided to beat up a Form 1 student, and you're told you use to showcase that you feel sorry for what you did. If you don't have this, then you can't score high marks in the language. Number 2, ensure that you go through your work. Read. Once you're done writing, read. Avoid spelling mistakes. Ensure that the punctuation has been indicated. Where you should have a capital letter, have a capital letter. Where you should have a full stop, have a full stop. So that away from the format mark, the content mark, then you ensure that you also get the language mark. And basically that's what I can say concerning functional writing. And with proper revision, you'll be good to go. And again, I will refer you to our revision book, that is English Guru. We have all the questions. We have analyzed all the functional writing items. And so you can go through the notes on all the functional writing items, and then you can look at the questions, and the book has answers. So you can gauge yourself and see whether you can write minutes or you can write a report. How do you now answer questions in the closed test? Number 1, you have to go through the closed test. Get to know what is the percentage. See all the answers in the 8 parts of speech that we have, because in a certain sentence you can't have a sentence, say, basically being formed of nouns, or a sentence being formed of verbs or adjectives. In a sentence, you'll have a subject, which is a noun. You'll have a verb, which is the action. You'll have an object, you'll have a helping verb. So in the same way, as you look at a closed test and you want to fill in the correct answers, then you must go through the question and ensure that you're using verbs, adjectives, nouns, and whatnot. And then use the most appropriate word. Consider blank spaces at the beginning of sentences. This means that the word that you give should be started off by a capital letter. Assuming that you don't do that, then you won't get a mark for that. And then how do you write? How do you write? If you want to indicate that this is a capital F, how do you indicate a capital F? How do you differentiate between a capital F and small f? So handwriting. So you should consider how you write, so that you don't say, okay, I'm having a capital F, but as the examiner is looking at it, it looks like a small f. So keep reading books, keep reading magazines, keep reading novels, look at your coursework, read, because the more you read, the more you get many new words, and in this case you can answer any question, or you can give the best or the most appropriate word in the closed test. This is out of 10. Now the next thing, now once you're done with this, I want us to focus on oral skills. Marks, what do you need? What do you need in oral skills? What should you look for? How do you revise for this? I want us to focus on the areas or some of the things that we expect to be tested in this area. So listening and speaking. So number one, you're having a question that is either being presented in form of a poem, a song, or a narrative. So excuse me, if you have these, then you can consider the questions. For instance, if you're having, say, a poem, what is expected? We're looking at charting the rhyme scheme. We're looking at word stress. How do you say a certain line in a poem? And so this is what we shall look at. So even before we focus on other questions, you'll have question 2 all the way to maybe question 5 or question 6. So we shall look at all these areas, but we start rhyme scheme. How do you chart the rhyme scheme? You consider the last word in a line in a poem, and in this last word in a line in a poem for all the lines in that poem. This is rhyming. So as you get the words that rhyme in a certain poem, you use the small letters of the alphabet. It was a beautiful day. So the rhyme will use a. Is rhyming with. So say line 1, line 2, the words are rhyming. So we give alphabet AA. You go to line 3 and 4, the words at the end rhyme. We go to BB, CC, DD. In this case, we talk about a regular pattern. The poem, or describe, yes, describe the rhyme. They're not rhyming. Sometimes they don't rhyme. So if they don't rhyme, if you say maybe the first word is not, the first word in the first line is not rhyming with the second, in the third line, if the word is still not rhyming, you go to C. And you present. How do you present the rhyme scheme? The rhyme scheme should be presented maybe conjunctions, no, present it as it is, A, B, B, C, C, D, D. And then you what are some of the sound devices that we have? We have alliteration. when you're talking about the initial case, you have words that follow each other. Could be they're not following each other, but they're in the same line. So you talk about assonance. So for assonance, again, you're looking at the repetition of the vowel sound. And learners, kindly focus on the sound. Sometimes you can even look at maybe the poem that you have been presented with, and you just read it out so that you get to know which word is having the same pronunciation. Because most learners will just look at say the letter. Look at letter A, or you look at letter E and A, but they're different. And then you say these words have the ensure that you're focusing on the sound. Then we have consonants. This is the consonantal in that particular poem. Write it down as an answer, then underline the sound. Talk about rhyme, you can talk about onomatopoeia. These are the English words that describe sound. So you can talk about the drip, the swish, you can talk about maybe the roar of the lion, etc. And then you can also talk about ideophones. When you look at ideophones, the giant fell down, poof. Sound devices, you can identify them and give an illustration. Away from that, which word do you stress in a certain line? Look at the content words. The content words will have things such as words such as nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs. So look at that. Do you have those words in that particular line? So if you have them, then you present them as they follow each other in that line. Then another question you might get in this area: how do you say line 10? How do you say line 5 in the poem? Think about verbal cues and non-verbal cues. So when you talk about verbal cues, non-verbal cues, we can set by verbal cues. So how do you use your voice as you read out a certain line? So you can talk about intonation, falling or rising intonation. You can talk about pitch. You can talk about maybe the pronunciation sometimes. In this case, maybe in a different aspect of verbal cues. But if you're having a certain line in a poem, then focus on the intonation, focus on the tone. Is it a happy tone? Is it an angry tone? And then away from that, for you to score the full mark, focus on the non-verbal cues. How do you ensure that you can, bring out what the poet means in that particular line? Talk about gestures. Be very specific. What is the line talking about? Then talk about what you would do. Would you nod? Would you wave? Would you say this is good? Yeah? So use the gestures. Away from that, you can use eye contact. Eye contact should be meaningful. You're not just staring, you're not just looking at this person, but you're having a meaningful eye contact. You can talk about facial expressions. So in this case, for you to score in this area, think about the two things: non-verbal and verbal cues. And that is now mostly those are some of the questions we get in a poem. If you're having an oral poem, which is a song, then expect the same question. An audience, how do you get their attention? Personalize your answer, because most students don't score in these get the attention of the audience if you wanted to sing the song in class. So you start by saying, I would maybe clear my throat, I would clap my hands, I would do ABCD. Talk about what you would do by actually saying it's you who is doing this action. Same case happens to when you're given a narrative and you're asked how would you get the attention? How do you ensure that the students are listening? How would you make sure that your performance is interesting? Again, you're going back to verbal cues and non-verbal cues. As you present, you would use gestures. There was this big animal. It was a monster. It had big eyes, you see. So the more you're using cues, you're ensuring that you can maintain your audience, that your audience can actually listen to you without having or getting any distractions. So those are some of the questions we might in question one. And if you get any other question, then I'm very sure that you have enough information to answer. A reminder, we have looked at 3 things. That is functional rating, what is expected from you. Two words in one blank space. You just give one word. Don't say happy stroke, maybe sad. No, just give one word. Once you're done with that, then we have looked at oral skills and we have seen what is expected in question 1. And so with that, we're done with the first few questions that you can get in English paper 1 and the techniques that we can use. And in the next session, and in any case, if you need any other item or if you have any other question pertaining what we have discussed right now and you want us to talk more about it, ensure that you leave some comment in the comment section and we shall definitely look at it and help you out. And then in the next section, kindly be on the lookout. We shall be looking at other areas that we intend to discuss in English paper 1. And until then it's a goodbye from me. Goodbye.